It's in a military change of command ceremony. And it's amazing how distracted you can get a commander when he's up giving a formal speech if you're sitting on the front row like this. It's amazing. He's up there giving his presentation, all of a sudden
He's like, if you ever have any problems, feel free to call my cell phone number, and he gives out his cell phone number to 150 guys right then and there. So, of course, you're standing on stage, you just give me your cell phone number, I'm gonna call it. Oh yeah. His phone starts ringing in his pocket, he just starts looking, trying to figure out who did it, because he knows it's the one of them out there.
Code Reds, do those really happen?
Yeah, but they're not really called Code Reds. They're pretty much blanket parties.
I just retired about a year ago after 21 years as a reservist. I've been in every war since Vietnam.
We pulled a reactionary one time with the State Platoon to raid the ammo dump.
Why?
To see if we could do it. So I'm out there with the State Platoon one night, and we're bivouacked for about 3 days. We had our own little private beach cove we found. We had the Jeeps, partying. And then we got the brilliant idea that let's get the lieutenant involved in this. Let's raid the ammo dump.
This is serious business. This is life and death situations. And anything I can do appropriately to create an atmosphere of, let's just step aside here and laugh a little bit.
Nobody can raid the ammo dump. It's got guards and stuff. Let's do the ammo dump. That's what you guys are trained for, right? I was all for it. I'm like, I want to go with you guys. Let's do this. So they got a hold on, crank the radio up, get a hold of Lieutenant Christensen. He's like, that's a good idea. I mean, it was proposed. But Sergeant Bugs Moran, he really planned this thing out. He was like, sir, I think we can do it. Man, we can get down here.
How long did it take to plan?
About 15 minutes.
Boot camp in the military. Here we're going through basic training, and it's intense, and people are just beat up and just exhausted. And the drill sergeants are going crazy trying to instill into us military position and how to march, and they would treat us like we're the dumbest people in the world.
We loaded everything up at the PX. We like about hot dogs and cases of beer. Not supposed to do that. So we buy all this beer and stuff.
Hot dogs, case of beer, 15 minutes, we're going to raid the
We'll
ammo
go down the hill.
I would do things on purpose. They would say, company, come, which means turn right.
Yeah.
I turn left. Just
Purposely.
Purposely. So everybody would go, so the drill sergeant would go crazy, yelling and screaming at me, telling me, you idiot, get down. But you know what? It saved 99 other people, gave them a moment of relief while I took the brunt of the drill sergeant.
We waited till dusk. We went out there. We just dug in. We just camoed out and everything. It just kind of creeped up on there.
Camoed out, camouflage.
Camouflage, ghillie suits. We had the whole 9 yards. We humped in. It took us about 3 hours to get all situated to get in there. And we got around the perimeter, and just when they changed the guard is when we attacked.
I was in the Navy from 2000 to 2010. I was active duty for 8 years and then reserves for 2 years.
It was kind of a sketchy deal. We could have got court-martialed because they actually called the real MPs.
Yeah.
Because we took the guard out, and they actually thought.
What do you mean took him out? What'd you do?
Well, we just captured him.
I went in boot camp, did the whole thing as normal, and then went to a ship. I came out of the Navy as an E5, which is a second-class petty officer. While I was in, I went with the Marines for a while. That was my last tour.
So you took the guard out. What happened then?
Well, we just waited for the MPs to show up, and then we told them we were from 3-7.
You just did it as a joke.
We're 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines. We're, our lieutenant's in on this. It's an intelligence deal. We wanted to see if we could penetrate and take out the ammo dump.
It was an intelligence deal. You guys came with drunk on the beach.
We were heroes, though.
You got away with it.
Oh, we got away with
I
it.
was in Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom. I was on the USS Bridge for 5 years. And then I finished out in Bangor with the Marines.
I was in Vietnam in 1969 and 1970. I was with the infantry. I was a forward observer for the infantry, which meant I called in artillery, airstrikes, and gunships during combat firefights.
I'm guessing once you guys did that, the camaraderie between those guys that pulled it off was just, you can't break that, can you?
No, as a matter of fact, one of my Facebook friends is one of those guys that it was his unit that did that, and he was my best man at my wedding.
I was in the Cambodian invasion in 1970, May of 1970. I was in the lead helicopter that went in there. And I called in, during that same period of time, I called in fire for Green Berets and Navy Riverines as well.
I was a medic, also known as a corpsman. And so basically I did everything that a medic does.
This base is sprawling, 23,000 soldiers in Camp Arif Jan in Kuwait. Huge base, big Air Force planes coming in and out, and soldiers and tanks, and that's where you went into Iraq.
People in the military have to laugh because you're constantly under stress. You're always on watch or doing something stressful. Even if you're not on watch, it's constantly stressful.
I got tired of walking all these distances between the hospital, and the chow hall, and then where I had my housing.
So we're doing a big Shot X, and the Marines are all there, and we're doing their shots. Like Shot X is basically we do all their immunizations, and they're all there, and everybody is really nervous.
So I decided, I'm going to get me a bike.
Then there's the hernia checks and this, that, and the other, and by the time they get to where I'm at, they realize that this is kind of a big room, and they're coming in, they're having to, drop trow, and there's this girl in there, and they don't know me. My guys know me, but they don't know me.
It's not real soldierly. It's not considered very high military precision or performance. If you're trying to boost your career, you're not going to ride a bike.
One of them was whispering to the other one about it, and he was like, "Nah, that's Doc, you don't understand." And he's like, "Tell him, Doc, tell him about Thailand." And I was like, "Thailand? I have been to Thailand. So basically, I've seen more penises than every prostitute in Thailand, and I've probably seen them all after Thailand. So you don't have to worry about that."
And here I'd be driving around, and I've got my colonel, my eagle up here, and then people are going, "It's a colonel on a bike." They didn't know whether to salute or not.
They kind of laughed a little bit, and then another guy was like, "Well, yeah, but don't you mostly see the girls on the ship?" And I was like, I have been inside more women than you'll ever be, and I've seen more men than you'll ever want. And of course, everybody cracked up, and the doctor that was doing the hernia checks dropped his clipboard, and he just kind of looked at me, and I was like, "What do you want, Doc? What do you want? I'm in this room with a bunch of naked Marines. What do you want? I'm a woman here."
I found at the PX, I found a few little things, some little ribbons to hang down from the handlebars, and my office got the idea they would send me a Barbie kit.
Well, they all cracked up, and then they realized, okay, obviously we're not going to offend her with anything they say, and then once they realize they're not going to offend you, you become one of the guys. And once you become one of the guys, that's, in the military, that's the ultimate compliment.
So I had a big pink basket with Barbie. I had a pink bell. I had streamers all the way around.
And you put it on the bike?
I put it on the bike.
When they tease you, it's kind of the initiation. It shows that they trust you and they like you and you're one of them. And it's the only way you get to be one of them. Because, I'll never be a Marine Corps sniper, but I gave him his flu shot, so we both shot something.
And people they loved it. They would talk about it. They go, "Oh, I'd go to the PX," or I'd go somewhere, and they go, "Yeah, you're the colonel with the bike, aren't you, the Barbie bike?"
It was during OEF, Operation Enduring Freedom. We had some rough seas, and we were drilling. And one of the guys was going down Shaft Alley, which is like 13 decks down, and he slipped on the 7th deck, and he fell 7 decks, and his leg got tangled up in one of the rungs. And so he ended up with concussion and a compound femur fracture, which is where it's sticking out of the skin. And of course, it's a bloody mess because the femur is the biggest bone in the body.
I've seen the worst of the worst.
Have you?
I have. I've unfortunately. It's a terrible thing.
So of course we go running over there with my little Unit 1 that's got basic first aid stuff, and we see that there's just this broken heap of a guy at the bottom of this. And he doesn't look like he could be possibly alive because there's so much blood. And at that point, it's, you don't even have time to get gloves on. And so it's so stressed. And there are people that are losing it. And then there are people that are already going to shock just seeing it.
I was in Iraq during Fallujah. I was at the hospital, the Ibn Sina Hospital, right there in the green zone where all the wounded came in. And this most horrific things you've ever seen.
We went in this little tiny, chopper to medevac over, and of course, the back is completely open, and so you're looking into open water, but it's an old helicopter, so the whole thing is shaking. And this kid has a compound femur fracture; his bone is sticking out.
Nothing in the civilian emergency room that I've ever seen that compares to the intensity of the injuries we see in combat.
We got to the carrier, and of course I look a hot mess. I'm covered in blood, and gloves are long gone. There's blood everywhere.
It was very tragic. Seeing a good friend get hurt badly, it has long-term effect on you.
Doctors start to take him, and he won't let go of my hand. And so they bring me back as far as they can, but he needs to go into the OR. And so I'm getting ready to walk away, and he like yells for me, "Doc, Doc." And the doctor's like, "We've got to take you in, son." And he's like, "No, Doc, come here." So I go running over there, and he's like, "Doc, you got to tell Chief I'm going to be late for watch."
When we landed in Cambodia in this huge helicopter airlift, I was the first one off the helicopter because I had to be to call in the airstrikes that were coming in with us.
And I said, "I'll tell him." Of course, he didn't come back to the ship. He had to go through major physical therapy. He met us on the pier about 6.5 months later when we came back. He made it. Yeah, he survived. He's doing great. He walks with a limp. He's awesome. And if you ask him if he has allergies, he says he's allergic to gravity. And he's such a good sport about it.
My best friend was a lieutenant of the infantry, and just before we landed, he said, you always sit on the edge of a chopper so you can get off quickly. And he said, switch places with me, so I'm taking my men here, and jets are coming this way. So I would have the line of fire. We switched places 50 feet above the ground. 10 feet above the ground is when you jump out and try to get away from getting shot. And as he landed, he took a machine gun bullet in his groin. It blew everything he had away, his whole stuff away. And that would have been me if he hadn't said, let's switch.
Could you do your job as a military police officer and a military personnel? Could you do your job as effectively without humor?
I couldn't. Maybe somebody else could. I know I would not be effective. Matter of fact, I don't think I would be in the career field. I don't think it would be something I could even stand to do.
Humor, it wasn't at the bedside of a patient we were trying to save their life. Unless someone did something silly and somebody might say something and we might laugh. But it wasn't, this was a serious situation.
Sure.
But as soon as there was a break, we'd go up to the roof, sit around in our fold-up Walmart chairs that we had shipped over or bought in the PX and light up cigars and start cracking jokes.
And it was MASH time.
It was MASH time.
Right from
It
like
was
the television, the
absolutely
movie
MASH
MASH.
time. And
Yeah.
we laugh at ourselves, we laugh at the things that were said, the funny things.
And
that
how
we
important was
observed.
that to do that at that
Oh,
moment?
you had to do it.
Why?
If you didn't do it, you'd get depressed, you'd get down, I mean, you cannot see the tragedy of war, the injury of war, what war is, what it does to human beings. You know, the horrific injuries, both physical and the unseen.
I used to see a guy I'd killed on the ground. I felt worse if I saw a dog on the ground. I just didn't, human life, their human life meant nothing to me.
You cannot deal with that day after day unless you have a release. You've got to get it out.
That's an unnatural state of mind. I mean, and so you have to do something to change that mentality, whether it's humor, whether it's, a close recognition of what you did, and that your feelings are probably okay and they're probably natural.
You've got to talk about it. You got to laugh about it.
It was getting towards the end of our deployment. They're getting ready to send us back home. And we worked the overnight shift. And we all head back down to where we live at. We had walked down there, about a mile walk, no big deal. We get down there, instead of getting to go to bed or go eat breakfast, whatever, we found out that there was a group coming to see us called a combat stress team. We were in Cuba, Guantanamo Bay. We weren't in combat, but we had to go see a combat stress team. The entire unit did. So we get to wait for these people. They finally show up. They give us all these surveys to fill out. I finally get my turn up in this young E4, and this guy's,
Now, what's an E4?
yeah, specialist in the Army, corporal. He's probably about 21 years old, new to the Army. He said, "Hey, Sergeant," yeah. He said, "This question right here on this form that I just filled out." "Yeah, what about it?" It says, "Do you sometimes feel like hurting people?" And you said, "Yes." "Yeah." He said, "Well, who do you feel like hurting?" "Right now, you." I mean, I was in a bad mood, really, and I should have been honest about it.
said that.
Oh yeah, and I paid a price for it. 2 days later, my first sergeant says, "Hey, guess what? Combat stress team wants to talk to you again." And I'm like, they want crazy? I'm gonna give them crazy. So I go and I shave half my head, the right half. We had a little girl, Autumn Blewett, who's about that big around, and she had a shirt that was tight on her that said "prep" on it. I'm not a little girl, but I got into that shirt. One of the guys had a bow tie that he loaned me. I'm wearing a pair of shorts with underwear on the outside of it, one combat boot, and one flip-flop. My interview with the psychiatrist when he shows up lasted about 20 seconds. He said, "Yeah, you're good." And I'm like, okay.
Being oversensitive, it soon becomes pretty frivolous, because when you go to war, we went to war. So someone calling me toots is not that big of a deal.
I used to tease them in the Army. I said, you know, we don't train to make things miserable. We train to make things so it's not miserable.
But if you're afraid and you're all together in a group and everybody is afraid and one person laughs, then everybody can laugh. And that's something that everybody can hold on to.
Why are we having a bad time? Let's have a good time doing it. The place sucks, but hey, we'll have fun.
I started the program for homeless veterans called Stand Down in Kansas City. We're doing it, this is the 21st year. And so I deal with a lot of homeless veterans who are there because of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And the main thing to do is A, talk about it to a professional, B, talk to people who understand why you feel that way, and C, to talk about it as early as possible after the experience.
There's a place for pharmacologic therapy, of course, in just about anything. But you don't want to drown yourself with, you know, benzodiazepines and Valiums, or even alcohol. I mean, you know, people use different things to try to cope.
You can tell the people that have a hard time with the stress. We had 13 attempted suicides on the first deployment and 9 on the second deployment.
It's okay to be unhappy about it. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be regretful.
And none of them went through with it because our medical department was amazing.
It was okay to feel a thrill out of killing people. It was okay it was kind of a high, you know. It's okay. And it's okay to be really sad about your buddies that got killed.
Laughter is a coping
But
mechanism.
you guys,
is what it is.
but you guys weren't going up there smoking cigars, drinking. You guys were talking about what you realistically saw and blowing it out by laughing.
Yeah.
Any combat vets to try to inject what they did with humor, because I think if you get in a mindset that is so much tied into combat. Combat is a fierce, unnatural situation. It is about trying to kill other human beings.
A young trooper coming back had lost his left leg.
It's a true story or a joke?
True story.
Okay.
I saw his picture via Facebook. He had a left leg gone from the knee down and had a prosthetic. He went and got a tattoo on the right leg on the back of his calf with the old finger pointing sign that said, "1 foot in the grave." And I found that to be the most humorous thing for a wounded warrior to come up with.
Why?
Because he found the humor in the loss of that leg. That just speaks volumes for a guy. That is a guy that I think is going to make it. He's not going to have the problems. He may have some downtime. He may have some sad moments. But for the most part, that guy's got his head on right. He's the kind of guy that's going to go help another guy.
People that couldn't laugh and find the humor in situations, they had a very rough deployment.
There was an expression that probably summarized the whole war that is humorous and it is very poignant. And it was, "We are the unwilling, led by the incompetent, to do the impossible for the ungrateful."
So I just tell these guys, these patients of mine, I mean, they're on antidepressants and I'm counseling them, but they're depressed. I'm saying, go help people. Go give yourself away. Do something good.
We have a saying in the Marine Corps, it's something greater than self.
It works. When you help someone, literally the neurotransmitters in your brain change, the levels. Mother Teresa, they've done studies on showing medical students a film of Mother Teresa, and they check their levels of a antibody in their saliva before the movie, before the film, and then they'd show like a 20-minute documentary on Mother Teresa, and then they'd measure the level of antibodies. This is your immune system to fight infection, and the levels of antibodies go up.
You can let combat or you can let divorce or things like that own you, own your spirit. And once you give up your spirit, you can't move forward again.
Doing good, serving other people, maybe it has to do with laughter too. You're taking your mind off of yourself and you're putting it on something else.
And that's what I hope transcends in these guys coming home. Because that's what they need. They just need someone to sit down and shoot the breeze with. Have a few beers, throw a few darts, shoot a game of pool.
God didn't make us laugh by accident.
And a lot of laughs.
There is a reason.
Yeah.
And there's a very good reason. It's healthy.
You got to enjoy life.
Any pressurized vessel's got some sort of pop-off valve on it. Keeps it from exploding.
We're just a vessel, and there's nothing wrong with doing something silly, acting silly.
Humor and laughter is just kind of like that pop-off valve for the human body. I mean, here's a pressurized vessel and you have to let that pressure out somehow.
We lived in a plywood hut together. When you say you release pressure, I know exactly.
That helps too.
No, it doesn't.
The legacy of the Vietnam veteran is it taught our country to distinguish the warrior from the war. And if you looked at Desert Storm, if you look at Iraq, Iran, no matter if you agreed or disagreed with the war, you still supported the warrior. That's why you see everybody in the airports welcoming troops back, giving them seats on airplanes, doing things they do, because they learned from the Vietnam experience that it's not right to treat the people who did it like garbage when they come home.